Hello, and welcome back to the Mission Soil podcast, where we explore the vital importance of soil health and the impact of EU Mission Soil. I'm your host, Gemma Range, and I'm excited to be here for our second episode. Today, we're diving deeper into the projects funded under the Mission Soil. We'll learn more about the goals, key outcomes, and current progress of these impactful projects. The Mission Soil is one of 5 missions funded by Horizon Europe, the EU Research and Innovation Programme. With partners from across Europe and beyond, the Mission Soil projects aim to address significant soil health challenges and contribute towards achieving the objectives of the Mission Soil. To date, the European Commission has invested over €300 million in Mission Soil projects, supporting the collaborative work of scientists, policymakers, and land managers. Today, we're joined by 3 experts leading some of these transformative projects. We have Raul Zornoza, the coordinator of the Mission Soil project BIOservicES, Paola Migliorini from the project HuMUS, and Linda Mehring from PREPSOIL project. They'll be sharing insights into their work and the practical changes they're making to improve soil health. To kick things off, I'd like to start with a quick question for each of you. What's the one thing you've learned through your project that you believe everyone should know about soil? Let's start with Raul.
Soil is the terrestrial compartment with higher biodiversity. It is something that we have found out in the last year, and it's amazing, even higher than the above ground landscape. And we only know a tiny part of these organisms, not only microorganisms, but also micro and mesofauna. We know that organisms are responsible for most of the key functions in the soil. With functions, we mean the processes such as soil organic matter mineralization or nutrient solubilization, that it is translated into the delivery of ecosystem services. In the end, it's advantages or benefits for human well-being and health. However, we don't know the exact functions that all these organisms accomplish in the soil, and even how soil management or land use change can alter this ability of soil organisms to contribute to the delivery of ecosystem services. Thus, some essential services from soil, such as productivity, climate change mitigation, nutrient cycling, water purification, etc., are related to organisms that we don't know yet. And this can change in terms of soil type, climate characteristics, land use, management, etc. We know that soil is a living body, and we have to study it, monitor it, conserve it as that, fostering all the functions that soil organisms can develop.
Thank you, Raul. And Paola, how about you?
Soil health is a territorial issue. Municipalities and regions are at the forefront on soil management, regulation, innovation, and community building, and are key to implement the soil mission. However, municipalities and regions have also several contrasting interests, and it's very difficult to keep the strategic goals in 5 years' time that are the administrative political period before election. At HuMUS, we focus on participatory soil governance, create territorial spaces and good practices for regional and local dialogues on soil health and land management through 34 territorial pilot projects on improving soil health at local and regional level. In 14 territories of 8 European countries partnering the consortium, and in 20 additional pilot sites selected through an open call, a cascade funding, launched at the end of the 2023 and that closed the 5th of April 2024 with €600,000. The main objective of the HuMUS project is to promote social dialogue on soil health among the 4 helix stakeholders like public authorities, company, citizen and civil association, academia at local and regional level.
Thank you. Linda, what about you?
Yeah, I will link a bit here to what Raul and Paola already said. So I am going to tell you a fun fact about healthy soil. If you dig all the soil life up, you will have over 7 very fat cows in weight of soil life. This is really amazing, I think. But what I really learned by organizing the PREPSOIL workshops is also what Paola referred to, is that so many people are involved with soil health. I think that is really, really, promising. People from different backgrounds, they care about soil. They invest their time. They have visited the workshops and shared their knowledge. And I think also that we speak about soil needs in PREPSOIL instead of soil threats is really helping. It is really appealing to be a bit more positive because it gives a future perspective. And people can relate to. They know what to do tomorrow, and they are not getting depressed by all these threats. So I think it is really good to link to what people care about. They manage the land, they live there, they recreate there, or they earn their money using soils. And that is, I think, what I learned by PREPSOIL.
Fascinating insights. Now, Linda, I'd like to start with you to dive into some specifics about the PREPSOIL project. PREPSOIL has carried out an extensive appraisal of soil needs across 20 regions in Europe, covering a range of land uses. What are the main common factors and negative impacts affecting soil health in areas like urban and industrial soils?
As main driver for soil needs, and soil needs are things that we need from soils, but also what soils need from us, are climate change. It's a very obvious example, I think. We have seen a lot of examples, floods and droughts in the recent years. And in urban and industrial land, this is very much felt. But also demographic pressure and societal demands and needs that we have for these urban and industrial lands, they are very steering for land uses. Obviously, soil sealing is a big threat to all these areas, but also soil pollution is a very common factor for these land uses. But at the same time, in urban lands, but also industrial lands, it's not just one single land use. We see a mosaic of different land uses within these areas. Green areas, we have gardens, we have parks, we have sporting fields, we have infrastructures, and you see them all together in a pattern, and this gives you flexibility. This flexibility is enabling us to find solutions for all these societal challenges, like climate change, like this demographic pressure. And you can use soils to solve these pressures. Also, we have opportunities to improve soil health with these different land uses. In urban areas, you can use the parks for climate adaptation and for livability. Next to that, I also think we should be a bit more creative. We can look only at natural soils in urban settings, but we can also see if we can create new soils, look at roof areas. They can be the new soils that can perform ecosystem services as well.
And who are the intended recipients of the regional soil needs identified by PREPSOIL? How can this information be used to improve soil health across the EU?
Actually, I think these are all decision makers, and this is a very broad group of people. We have here and now, we have landowners, but also I consider people with a tiny garden as landowner, and they can also perform their role. They can unseal their gardens, and many small gardens together are a lot of land, so you can do a lot with that. But also decision makers on a larger spatial and temporal scale are obviously of importance. We have cities, regional authorities, and they can say what they want about land use. So they are very important to involve. They can embed the soil, sediment, and water system more strongly in spatial planning and design. What they also can do is steer with policy towards the reuse of underused areas, the so-called brownfields. They can integrate requirements or subsidies to improve soil health. Also, scientists are a target group because there is still little known about urban soil health. How can you measure soil health cost effectively, and what can you say about the soil to deliver certain ecosystem services? Also, it is very important to see what these activities gain for a specific land user. What are the benefits and what do you have to invest in terms of activities and costs to perform these activities? These are just a lot of aspects that we have to know more about. I also think that living labs are a wonderful example to elaborate this knowledge better, and it gives a very strong link to the users, the policy, the science, and the practice.
Thank you, Linda, for shedding light on these crucial aspects. Now, Paola, turning to you, your project, HuMUS, is doing remarkable work engaging communities. HuMUS focuses on bringing municipalities and regions together to restore soil health. Can you share an example of how local communities can influence soil management decisions? What is HuMUS doing to engage citizens and stakeholders in soil protection and restoration?
The HuMUS project developed a methodology to carry out the participatory process that internal pilots are applying. This methodology consists of territorial analysis, state-of-the-art of soil issues, to be presented and shared with citizens and local stakeholders, and used during the local workshops with the actor identified to analyze problems, enhance soil literacy in the society, and co-create solutions to be included in the territorial management agreement. We have several examples from the 14+20 pilot project. For example, there are municipalities that develop a shared composting area in urban environment. Some other that were able to collect organic waste from pruning and private garden and to convert them into organic fertilizer that were then distributed to citizens, as well as other municipalities that decided to have organic canteen in public school, for example, and were able to access organic product from local producers, so improving positive feedback.
Thank you. Balancing soil health with the competing demands of urban development, agriculture, and other land uses can be challenging. What strategies do you think can help reconcile these interests? Could you share a concrete example from your project where local stakeholders with different priorities successfully collaborated to implement sustainable land management practices?
Well, balancing soil health with the competing demands of urban development, agricultural land, and other land uses is indeed a very difficult process. One strategy we are using is the territorial management agreement, which will be co-developed and hopefully signed through a quadruple helix approach. This involves collaboration between local council, the local organizing committee like other citizen or academia or citizen assembly, as well as not different stakeholder. And all of them can actively participate in the discussion and in the decision. For example, in some regions, after conducting thorough territorial SWOT analysis, the main goal has been decided in a common agreement to stop soil sealing and increase the reuse of urban soil. However, at the moment, we are in this process, so we don't have yet any finalized territorial management agreement, but we are working on them. And of course, there is a huge diversity along the European different regions and municipality because the main goal and objective can be different. On the other hand, it's quite common that the municipalities can have some conflicts within their own economic development plans. We have some good example already. For example, in the district of Fiesole, that is a small municipality in Tuscany, Italy, that already began this process even before the official start of the HuMUS project, but now they are one of the first municipality that signed the European Soil Mission and are actively developing the territorial management agreement. A group of citizens very motivated with the desire to create a community that operates also on social and human scale, successfully implemented initiatives to protect the area that are exceptionally fragile and very beautiful territorially, well known all over the world. And this, for example, included the development of organic farmers market, school gardens, and many other local projects. Another example comes from Piedmont, where the regional administration has focused on promoting sustainable land management by encouraging quality settlement practices and the development of agroecological practices. They also aim to mitigate hydrogeological risks in lower altitude areas, and this involves preventing, controlling, and also combating surface soil erosion that is often supported by maintenance plan from municipality as well as voluntary association that in many municipalities play a fundamental role. Another example is promoting effective land use by making the territory more accessible on foot, bicycle, or other vehicles. And this approach not only encourages hiking, but also ensure mobility in emergency, for example, during fires. And it also supports sustainable forestry practices and the wood supply chain.
Thank you. That's incredibly insightful, Paola. Raul, I'd like to shift to BIOservicES, where you're exploring the link between soil organisms and ecosystem services. BIOservicES is developing new indicators and tools to better understand the relationship between soil organisms and ecosystem services. How can these tools help land managers, for example farmers, make better decisions, be more resilient in the face of climate change, and produce more sustainably?
We know that soil contributes to multiple functions and provides multiple ecosystem services, and that soil organisms are involved in those functions and services. However, we don't know the key organisms involved in those key ecosystem services, so we can foster them. We aim to provide with BIOservicES indicators to assess how soil management and land use change can affect this relationship between a soil organism or a group of organisms and key ecosystem services, such as water retention, nutrient cycling, carbon sequestration, reduction of soil-borne pathogens, etc. Those that we want to enhance it in our fields, in our soil. Thus, with BIOservicES, we will provide pairs of organisms or groups of organisms and key ecosystem services, so we can provide guidelines to enhance the abundance of activity on that or those organisms that enhance the delivery of these targeted ecosystem services. We aim to increase production or carbon sequestration or water infiltration, for example. Concerning the climate change mitigation, we aim to identify the key organisms involved in the storage of soil carbon and provide guidelines on how to monitor them and how to enhance their abundance or activity in terms of land use and management, so that fostering them we can also increase carbon sequestration and storage.
BIOservicES operates across multiple land uses and regions. What are some key differences you've observed in how soil organisms contribute to ecosystem services in agriculture versus urban or forestry soils?
This is indeed something that we aim to find out in BIOservicES. We don't know yet. We are working with different land uses and management practices from those land uses in different paleoclimatic regions of Europe. We foresee to identify the key factor driving differences, how soil organisms contribute to key ecosystem services, and if these drivers are mostly related to land use or the paleoclimatic region. Are organisms from different regions contributed in a similar way to ecosystem services within the same land use when comparing with other land uses? Or, contrarily, are organisms from different land uses contributed to similar ecosystem services within the same paleoclimatic characteristics? This information is not properly understood yet, and we foresee to fill this gap with BIOservicES results.
Thank you, Raul. Now, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you each one final question. Based on the work you've done in your project, what gives you the most hope for the future of soil health? Let's start with Linda.
Thank you for the question. For me, this was really the enthusiasm that we could see by the involved stakeholders. And these were not just people from science or the professional soil community, but also citizens, for example. In PREPSOIL, we also mapped existing living labs and initiatives that deal with soil and soil health. And there is a lot of going on in Europe, and this is really nice to see. Soil processes go really slow, but I think we have to be realistic. If you look at all these initiatives and if you look at all these stakeholders, I think we can be hopeful. When I see school children delve into the soil in search of critters for the Soil Animal Days that is held yearly in the Netherlands, or if I see the documentary Planet Soil, this was watched by a lot of people and it received many prizes. I think this gives us hope. We just have to find the right buttons to push and to get people enthusiastic. And then we can start improving and valuing the soil sediment water system in our daily work. And I think also we have to value these many small steps, because with many small steps we can achieve big things.
Paola, what about you?
In the HuMUS project, we have carried out an analysis of all the European law developed at European level, but also in the member states. And we found out that the activity about the policy activity is very fragmented and very often also controversial. So some laws are not in agreement. So there is not a coherent policy at national and regional and European level. So one of my hope is that at European level, but also at national law, there will be policy that target the stop of soil sealing, in particular in urban and peri-urban area. I think this is crucial. And also the monitoring law seems very ambitious, and I hope it will solve some of the problem. On the other hand, I desire about the educational approach on soil. Soil is an environment, is an ecosystem, is a living ecosystem that we don't see, we don't hear, and we don't eat. So there is a lot of lack of awareness on what is soil under our feet. But it's becoming more and more popular, and we need to give voice to soil and to make visible the invisible. Maybe last specific point for me is the work we are doing in Piedmont region. We dedicated the project on mountain and pedomountain area that have completely different goals and needs compared to the plain, even in the same region. And there we focus, for example, on land access, because the reforestation in that system is not actually positive, because it's the result of a strong abandonment of the land, and this is not good for the management of water, of soil fertility, as well as socioeconomic issue. And so, for example, to improving the services like, again, facilities or school or a bakery will reverse the process. So I wish that this kind of activity can be developed.
Thank you. And finally, Raul.
For me, it is fascinating to see the increasing awareness on the need to preserve soil health in the entire society, not only by researchers or policymakers that we are used to, but also farmers, foresters, land managers, and entire society in the last years are demanding for measures to conserve soils, to keep and recover soil health, and to have European production system based on healthy soils, something society was not familiar with in the past. There is a public demand, and so through mission soil projects, we have to contribute to the progress of developing tools to assess and monitor soil health to facilitate the easy adoption by end users.
Thank you all for those inspiring words. It's clear that with dedicated experts like yourselves working on these projects, the future of soil health looks promising. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey. We hope today's episode has provided you with valuable insights into the essential work being done to restore and protect Europe's soils. Before we go, I'd like to encourage you all to visit our website at mission-soil-platform.ec.europa.eu to sign the Mission Soil Manifesto, lending your voice to this cause. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss our upcoming episodes, where we'll continue to explore the critical work being done to secure a healthier future for soils and our planet. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.